Okay. Get to start a new parak today. Okay, sure.
Good morning.
Good morning. Shalom is here. Want to say hello?
Hi, Shalom. Hey.
Okay. So that's on the bottom of Tzadik Daled, Amud Aleph. That's 94a. Yeah, years ago, this is what they taught us in elementary school. Sixth grade. Reb Naftali, and this is what I learned together with Gedalia in Yeshiva Spring Valley. Yeah. Okay. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In this chus of our learning, we should have the base of Migdash. We're learning Lilin Yishma Savagol Devas Baruch Binyamin and the Sanal Zeb Ben Sian and the Refuah Shlema for Rabbi David Ben Sar and for everyone else who needs Refuah Shlema. Okay. Starts like this. Shayla Sapara. Someone, I need a chumash in a minute. Good. If someone borrows a cow, Shol Bala Ima, and together with borrowing the cow, he also borrows the owner. And we're going to see later that
As a slave?
Help as a helper to do something for him. We're going to see later that there's going to be an opinion that holds that he's borrowing the owner to work with the cow that he's borrowing, and but the Gemara is going to reject that. It doesn't matter. He's borrowing the cow and he's borrowing the owner to paint his house or something, whatever, to do anything. So, or he hires him as a worker. Or or maybe what happened was, the first case of the Mishnah was simultaneous. Together with renting the cow, together with borrowing the cow, not renting that, together with borrowing the cow, he also borrows or rents the owner at the same time. Case number two, the Shol Abalin. First, he borrows the owner. He asks the owner, can you please help me? Or he hires him for something. And then afterwards, he borrows the cow. Mesa and it dies. Potter, he's going to be exempt. Shenamar, this is a source from the Torah that says in Balavima Yashalim, if the owner is with him, then he doesn't pay. He doesn't pay for the accident that happens. We're talking about a borrower. Borrower is chayiv even if unpreventable circumstances happen. He's chayiv for the animal, but he's going to be exempt if the owner is with him. So far, that's what we know. Rashi over here makes a big deal not to say that you're renting the cow. He says the Mishnah doesn't discuss renting the cow. The Mishnah only discusses borrowing the cow. What's the owner doing for you? That could be borrowing or renting, but not the cow. It says it's true that the same halacha would apply to renting the cow, but that we don't know from the Mishnah. So, okay. On top of Tzadik Dalet Amid Beis. Aval Sholas a Paravachach Sholas a Bailan Lisachran. But let's say first you borrowed the cow. Then afterwards you borrowed the owner, or you hire the owner. Mesa, and the cow dies, then he's going to be chayav. It's a regular shayel, a borrower who's chayav for einsin. Shenemar bailav eini mai shalim yishalim. It says if the owner is not with him, which the Gemara is going to understand, he's not with him at the time of the borrowing. He just was with him later. That doesn't help. He's going to have to pay. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Gemara says like this: Midik tani seifa. Since the Sefer, the end of the Mishnah says, "Va'achar kach shal asapara," and afterwards you borrow the cow. Mechlal, that would imply that the very first case, the Reisha, the Ktani Ima, which we said was simultaneous, Ima mamash means actually simultaneous, exactly at the same moment. Gemara has a problem with this. How do you borrow a cow and the owner at exactly the same moment? It's a problem. Ima mamash mimishkachasla, is that possible? How's it going to work? If you tell the owner, I'd like for you to come help me in my house for something, and I also want to borrow the cow. The owner says, okay. So the owner is already agreed to work. So that means that the owner is borrowed, but the cow, you don't get the cow until you pull it. So it's going to be later. So, which is not, halachically, it's the same thing, but it's not the case. The Mishnah says ima mamish, means literally. And over here, you don't really have it literally. The Gemara answers, iba yisema, we could say, can gain the kaima par b'chatzir the shayl. We can find scenarios to avoid this question. He says, we're talking about one scenario is that the cow is already in the courtyard of the borrower. So as soon as he says that I'd like to borrow it, so then he says, okay, he doesn't have to go and pull it. That okay from the owner. That's when he said, I'd like to borrow you and the cow. So that'll automatically take effect right when he says, okay. Iba is saying because usually you would need to pull it. Over here, you don't need to because it's in the courtyard. And the courtyard could also be a kinyan of Sheila.
Can you say, I want your cow and I want you to buy that cow?
Yeah, but you won't acquire it as a borrower until you're the one that actually pulls it. The owner riding on the cow, even though you requested that.
That's to come to your house and you pull it in.
Yeah, but when the owner agreed, then he's already working for you. But the cow is only once you pull it in. So that would be another step. You buy your same another terrace.
So when I'm not sure I understand this phrase, borrow the owner, but is the kinyan the same as for a poil, just when he walks there and shows up?
Yeah, over here it's funny because over here it says even when he just agrees. See, it says Misha. You see Rashi Bailam Bamira. Misha Amalei Hari Parasi Va'ani Nishalim Lach. It says my cow and me are borrowed to you. He himself, the owner, is already borrowed. Para akati mechzer mashicha is still missing, still lacking the pulling.
So it's important here that it's him and the cow.
Yeah,
the
well,
order isn't clear.
we want it to a case that's simultaneous because we have three cases in the Mishnah. We have simultaneous, the owner first, and then the cow first. So we want the simultaneous to really be simultaneous. So we came up with one option where it was in the courtyard. Option number 2, where he says, At gufach leitishal adjas mashichas parasa. I don't want you to be acquired until your cow is acquired, which means when he pulls the cow, then he becomes a payal, becomes a helper, a worker for him. That was the stipulation. Okay, so we have two options to have a correct reading of the Mishnah. Okay, Tanan Hassam, we learned over there. Where's over there? 2 days ago, we learned in Abba Shemrim. Right? Abba Shemrim. Morning. Okay. Tired? Thank you. Okay, Abba Shemrim, there's 4 types of watchmen. Shemrichinim is the non-paid watchman, right? He doesn't get anything from watching. He's going to be the most exempt, right? He's only obligated for Shia, negligence. Bashayel, the borrower, is chayav for Mesmach, Malacha. It's chayav on everything. Metzia Sachar is a shemer sachar, is a paid watchman. Ba'aseicher and the borrower. See, shemer chinam. When it says the shemer chinam, what is he responsible? What's his obligation? Nishbalakol. He swears on everything. When it says that he swears on everything, that actually means that he's exempt for everything as long as it wasn't negligent. What does it mean? He swears. He swears that it was stolen. He swears that it was lost. He swears that it was an accident. Whatever it is, he swears, and then he's exempt. So it means nishbalakol. He exempts himself by taking an oath. Vashayel, the borrower, Mishalim Esakol, he has to pay for everything. In other words, he doesn't even have an option of swearing. It's not going to help. He has to pay whatever the case is. You got to pay. It depends. The paid watchman and the renter, they swear if it was injured. What did they swear if it was injured? They swear that it wasn't injured with negligence. They swear that it was taken captive. Or they swear that it died, and it wasn't a case of negligence. But if it got lost or stolen, that they have to pay without even taking an oath. But there's those other oaths, or whatever, they have those other things. Okay, Minani Mili, how do we know this? This Gemara here is going to go into the background of what's the source of the Shemrin. So it turns out in the Torah, you see above the Gemaras, there's a big blue book. No, right next to the blue book. Yeah, the Chumash, exactly. So there are three parshas in the Torah, in Parshas Mishpatim, that discuss watchmen. The first one says, Ki tinish areo kesef v'kelim lishmar. The person gives to his friend silver or vessels to watch. Oh, with the candlestick. You said it yesterday.
Oh.
So he gives him a So in this section where it says if he gives vessels or silver vessels to watch, so it goes on, it says, and it gets stolen. If you don't find, if you find the thief pays double. If you don't find the thief, then the owner goes to court and he swears that he did not, let's see what it says over here, to swear an oath that he has not laid his hand upon his friend's property. Then he's exempt from compensation since he was not paid for his services. So we know that the Shem Chinim is going to be pater on Geneva. We also know that Imloyi Metzia Daf, what does it say? We know that if he is caught as he's the one that stole it, he's going to have to pay twice. That we learned from Tayan Tanas Ganav. A non-paid watchman would have to pay twice if he's caught claiming that it got stolen, taking the oath that it got stolen, and then getting caught with it. Right? Because if he claims it got stolen, he's exempt. He makes an insurance claim. And then he's caught, he has to pay double. If there's an oath involved, would he put the other penalty? I think so. But the double is only by a 10 times kind of only with the oath. Second paragraph over here is, if a person gives to his friend a donkey, an ox, or a sheep, or any animal to watch, and it dies, or it gets injured, or it gets captured, and no one sees it, then he takes an oath. If it gets stolen, he has to pay. Yeah. The first case was vessels. Second case is animals. The third case is if a person borrows. Here it says vichi yishal. The first two only say ki yitain. All right. And so if he borrows, and when by the borrow it says bailav einimai shalim yishalim, if the owners are not with him, he has to pay. Bailav imai la yishalim, if the owners are with him, he doesn't have to pay. But it was talking about if he borrows from his friend and it gets injured or it dies. That's the case. Okay, so the case of the borrowing is very clear in the Torah. It says clearly that he borrowed. The case of the paid watchman and the unpaid watchman is unclear in the Torah because it doesn't say if he's getting paid or not. It just says what case number one is he gives him utensils. Case number two is he gives him an animal. Doesn't say if he's now true. Case number one says that he has to pay case number one says that he's exempt if it's stolen. Case number two says he has to pay if it's stolen, but it doesn't tell me that that's a shemer chinim and shemer sachar. The Gemara over here is going to have to figure that out. It doesn't say the word shemer chinim in the Torah. It doesn't say the word shemer sachar in the Torah. It only says shoyel. So the Gemara now says, how do we know that this is the case? Tana Rabbana was taught in the Brisa. The Brisa says that the first section is talking about an unpaid watchman. The second section is talking about a paid watchman. Shlishis b'shayel. The third one is about regarding a borrower. B'shayel. Bishlam shlishis b'shayel mefurish. Okay, it works out well. Bishlam, it is all good. The third one is regarding a borrower because it says clearly. Person borrows from his friend that gets injured or died, the owner's not with him, he has to pay. Very good. It says clearly he's a shayel. How do we know that? I could say it's exactly the opposite. I could say that the first case is a shemer sachar, and the second paragraph would be the shemer chinim. Gemara says no. It's more logical to say that the second paragraph is the shemer sachar sheken chayav b'gneva aveda. Because if he's getting paid, we'd like to increase his responsibility, and he should be responsible if it gets stolen or lost. That's a very logical claim. It says Adarabba. On the contrary, the first one, the paragraph number 1 should be the shemer sachar, because he gets an extra penalty if he lies about that it was stolen. He has to pay double. It says no. It's more significant if he has to pay without any oath than if he could get free because of an oath, and then if he gets caught, he has to pay double. So the stricter one is you have to pay immediately. Not you still have a chance to get out of it unless you get caught. So what we would say is like this. Case number 1 is the shemer chinam. I know if he gets caught lying, he has to pay double. But the fact that case number 2 has to pay immediately, and we don't even give him an option of getting out, that's stricter, and therefore that should be the shemer sachar, paid watch. Teida, and I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you that a chance of paying double is not as significant as paying up front one principal payment. Proof is the shayel, because a borrower, the borrower has all the benefits, right? And he only has to pay the principal payment. He never has to pay double payment to borrow. The borrower should be the one that's most chayav. And if you say that the most chayav should be paying double sometimes if he's caught, so then why do you make him pay up front? We should have the borrower being exempt and then just paying double if he's caught. So it says, no, the paying up front is stricter than paying double if he's caught, than being exempt and paying double when he's caught. Gemara says, just challenges the language over here. He said that a borrower has all the benefit. He doesn't have all the benefit. He has to feed the animal. We're on 94b, middle. It says, well, the kaimabagam, he doesn't have to feed him because it's in the meadow and it's just grazing over there. He doesn't have to do anything. It says, but he has to watch him. Not their masa. There's a city watchman that watches all the animals. Okay, possible. No, it's possible that Kolanar Shlei. If it's not, he has to watch it. But theoretically, it could be Kolanar Shlei that he gets all the benefits, and nevertheless, he never pays a double payment. If you want, we could just adjust the wording there and say, we could say that it's not all the benefit, it's mostly benefit, right? Another way we can get around this is Bashilas Kalim, that he borrowed utensils, where you don't have to feed it and you don't have to watch it. You just put it in your house, right? Okay. Noisi Sachar V'Aseicher. We're working through the Mishnah. He said that the paid watchman and the renter, they have to pay if it's injured, if it's captive, taken captive, or if it died. They swear if it's injured, taken captive, or died. They have to pay if it got stolen or lost. It's interesting. It doesn't say Aveda in the pasuk, but it says Bishleim Aveda. It's good. We understand that he should have to pay if it got stolen. The ksivim ganav mima yishalim labalav. says if it gets stolen, he has to pay to the owner. But how do we know if it gets lost? He has to pay. The Tanya was taught in the Brisa. If it gets stolen, ainly elagneva. I only know if it's stolen, he has to pay. Aveda minayin. How do I know if it got lost? He has to pay. And it says if it gets stolen, whatever the case is, double expression there. If it's surely stolen. Yikanev would be a a nifal. Yeah, if it was stolen. Ganoiv is like that participle, they call it. It's put sometimes before it to do this double expression, which in school they translate as if it was surely stolen, right? The repetition indicates it's also talking about if it gets lost. This all works out well according to those opinions, like not Rabbi Yishmael, that holds that the Torah does not speak in the language of man. And if there's a double expression, then it's teaching me something. But according to the opinion that says that the Torah speaks in the language of man, and it just uses the common idioms that people would use when they talk. So how do we know that Aveda, that he has to pay, Hashem or Sachar has to pay for Aveda? Amrid Maravas, they said in the West, Kal V'chaimer. We have a Kal V'chaimer. What's the West there? It's Israel. It goes like this. Ma Geneva Shekrei V'loines, when it comes to theft, that's close to a unpreventable circumstance. It's not 100% unpreventable, but it's close to it because someone else is coming in and taking it. Mishalim, you have to pay for that. Aveda, when it comes to getting lost, I forgot where I put it. This, I can't find it. Shekrei V'lepshia, or it wandered away and I can't find it. So it's closer to negligence. Like Kolshkin, for sure you should be responsible. So we have a logical explanation. The problem is what about the opinion that holds that the Torah does not speak in the language of man and the extra word is coming to teach me? Why do I need an extra word to teach it to me if I have logic to teach it to me? Shouldn't logic be enough? It says, nevertheless, even though you have a kal v'chomer, sometimes the pasuk can say it anyway. Yeah. Sometimes the Gemara says the other way. Lama likra svarahu. Why do we need a pasuk? It's logical. Sometimes it says no. Milsadasi b'kal v'chomer tarach b'kasel lakra. Right. Okay. Now we're continuing working our way through the Mishnah. It says Vashayal. Yeah, when it comes to this logic, so I saw someone was writing about this. This fellow from South America. He has a Rosh Hashiva in Eretz Yisrael. Samsonovitz, I think Samsonovitz. I saw some svarim from him. Anyway, he was writing about how the Eibishter talks to people through the Torah and also talks to them through the logic. He was quoting Orchas Chaim Larash that says never. He quotes a pasuk that don't mix into anyone else's fight, because the pasuk says because they'll make up. Al tasabel l'riv leilach. Don't never mix into anyone else's fight, because they'll make up and you'll still be fighting. That's the pasuk in Mishnah. So he's asking. Why do we need logic for that? It's a pasuk that you shouldn't fight, you shouldn't all of this. He says no. If you have logic, that comes before the pasuk. The Eibishter talks to you through your logic as well, which is interesting. Anyway, Ashoyel, we're up to the borrower. Mishalim esakol, he pays everything. He pays everything means even if it's unpreventable circumstance, even if it's a einus. I understand when it comes to if it gets injured or dies, it says that the ksiv it skips the third scenario. It says if it gets injured or dies. But it doesn't talk about if it was taken captive. the concept of captive was only said by the Shemechinim. In case number 2, it says, nishbar umeis, nishbar nishba. But when it's nishbar is injured, nishba is captive. But in by the shayl, it doesn't say that. It says, well, we can learn it from the other ones. It says, no, you can't. That's something injured or dying is something that went into your mind that if you didn't want to take responsibility for that, you would have said, I'm not taking responsibility, because that's something that happens. Right? People, not people, animals die. That's just what only once, but they die. So it's gonna happen. So you should have understood. An injured is also something that's common. But to say that it's going to be taken captive, it doesn't always happen. Maybe he never would have thought of that. So maybe the fact that he didn't say specifically, I'm not taking responsibility for that, doesn't tell me anything. The Gemara says, we're going to learn it like this. By the Shemer Sachar, it says Shvura Mesa, and by the Shayla, it says Shvura Mesa. Just like by the Shemer Sachar, it has the third scenario there, where it's taken captive. Afkan, also by the Shayal, so by the Baro, Shvura Imai. Gemara says, 1 second, you can't just do that. You can ask a question on this. The Shemer Sachar was telling me that he's exempt from all of those cases. Now you're saying, oh, well, if it says all 3 by the Shemer Sachar, it probably meant to say all 3 by the Shemer Chinam. No, I'm sorry, not by the Shemer Chinam, by the Shayal, probably meant to say all 3. But the problem is, by the Shayal, he's Chayev, and by the Shemer Sachar, he's Pater. Ella Reb Nassan, we're going to learn it like Reb Nassan. It's Machlaikas over here, Reb Nassan and Reb Yeshia. Common Machlaikas, it appears in other places in Shas. It says, the Tanya was taught in a Brisa. Reb Nassan Aimer, Nassan says, when the pasuk says "oi," or that word, that Hebrew word for "or" is "oi," the Rabbi Shvuya is coming to include not the Yiddish "oi," say "oh," in the Chaylam Aleph with the Chaylam oh. The Rabbi Shvuya is coming to include a captive. Gemara says, oh, it's because the pasuk says by the borrower, "Nishbar oines," it was injured or died. Now that or, which it didn't need to say the or, it could have said "Nishbar umes." It was injured and died, and I would have understood that it's an or. It doesn't have to have both. So the fact that it says or is coming to teach me one other halacha, which is if it's taken captive, he's going to be chayiv. Where it says no, it needs to divide it up. I would think that maybe he's only chayiv if it's injured and dies. Not meant if it's injured, maybe it doesn't have to pay. If it dies, maybe it doesn't have to pay. It needs to be both. Until it's injured and died, I could have thought maybe it's not chayiv. Kamash Malan, that he's chayiv even one or the other. Works out well according to Rabbi Yonasan. But according to Rabbi Yesha, how are you going to explain this? The Tanya was taught in the Brisa. We have to go through this to understand what the machlekes is. Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yesha. It says, if a man curses his father or his mother, it says and his mother. I would only know if he curses both his father and his mother. How do you know if he curses his father without his mother without his father? It says his father and his mother he cursed. Now, if you look at the pasuk, and this is all in the same pasuk, so one has yikalales aviv. It has the word aviv close to the word yikalal, which means first is coming, he's cursing his father. At the end of the verse, it has the word imai, aviv imai kilal. It has the word imai next to the word kilal, which means that the word imai is closer to the curse. It's coming to teach me aviv kilal imai kilal different Rabbi Yeshia. The fact that it says that it has the word kilal at one point in the pasuk connected to the father, at one point connected to the mother, it's coming to tell me that it's independent. That each one, it could be or. It doesn't have to be both. Rabbi Yonasan says, Rabbi Yonasan says that the way, this is a grammar machlekes, the way the psukim work is that it always means or unless the pasuk says together. When it says you shall not plow with an ox and a donkey together, I would have understood, according to Rabbi Yonasan, without the word together, I would have understood that it would be independently. I would have understood that can't plow with an ox alone. I can't plow with a donkey alone. I need the pasuk together to tell me it's together. Same thing over here. When it says a man that curses his father and his mother, I wouldn't have understood automatically that it's his father or his mother, unless it says together. The word yachtav together would put it together. Without the word together, then they wouldn't say that. Yeah. Should honor your mother and your father. According to Rabbi Yonasan, it's obviously separate. Honor your mother and your father, separate independently. According to Rabbi Yeshua, it sounds like you have to honor your mother and your father. If you do one of them, you didn't do the mitzvah. Maybe. I don't know. You're going to make me go through the whole Torah over here, rereading everything.
Is that like a Hebrew or Aramaic thing? Because usually in English when you say and, it's both.
I don't know if and means both. In contracts, I don't know if and always means both. You say the owner does not want you to jump, play loud music, and whatever, and have parties late at night or something. Now it said and. Does that mean loud music and parties? Does that mean or?
It means like all of those things. Now, if it's at the same time or not.
No, so but it could have said or. But let's say it used the word and. Does that mean that each one that you only violate it if you do all of those things? Individual. So and even in English could be an or. Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yeshua are arguing about the English language as well, but I'm saying that the concept does apply in the same. Okay, so according to Rabbi Yonasan, which by the way could be Reb Nassan, and Reb Nassan is his nickname. But anyway, whatever the case is, according to Rabbi Yonasan, I have an extra word "I" because I don't need the word "I." B'nishbar oy meis, that wasn't necessary. I would automatically know that it's an or. So what is the "I" telling me? If it was taken captive. Said, but what about Rabbi Yeshua? It says, if you tell me Rabbi Yeshua, you could even say it's Rabbi Yeshua. Over here, you don't need it. Why, my timer? Why over here don't you need the "I" to divide? Usually Rabbi Yeshua says you need something to teach you that it's this or that. Otherwise, you'd think it's all together. Says Svarahu, over here it's logical. Malikat lekula, malikat lepalga. Because what's the difference if he injured him and injuring is like half of death. So what's the difference if he killed him? If he's going to have to pay, if the animal died, not killed him. If the animal died, he has to pay. Or if the animal was injured, he's partially dead. That's also you should have to pay. It's like a percentage of death. So you should have to pay for that as well. I would have said it the other way. It's funny that the Gemara can say this logic. I would say maybe not. Maybe katla kula is different than katla palga. Killing him entirely is different, maybe. Remember when I learned this in 6th grade? I remember my teacher said, don't remember who he quoted. He quoted one of the commentaries. He said, really, if it died, you're chayiv. So what's the difference if it got injured? If it got in, I think it was saying from Rashash or something. If it got injured, so it died plus it's injured. So what's the difference if it's entirely dead or if it's dead in a half, injured? If it's injured and dead, so what do I need the injured for? If it's dead, he was learning it the other way. Once it's dead, what do I need the injured? I'm saying, what's the difference if it died? Well, if it's injured, it's partially dead. That's, I mean, simple reading is like that, is the way I'm saying. That what's the difference if it died? Injured is partial death, and you should be chayiv on that as well, right? Independently of dying.
Injured, he could recover.
But the other pshat, right? Injured could recover. The other pshat avoids that. The other pshat is once he's chayiv and dying, so why then why does he have to get injured to be chayiv? Once he's dead, what does he need to get? Die and a half? Like both die plus. Once he's dead, he's dead. Malikat lakula, malikat lapalga plus kula. That's another pshat. I think he said from the Rashash.
The whole thing of the pit is only
Right. Animal died. So what's the difference? Right? That was Rabbi Goldfisher was our teacher in 6th grade. Okay. We're continuing through the Mishnah. He said, how do we know that a shayel, a borrower, is responsible for Geneva Vaved if it gets stolen? If we say maybe we'll learn it from Shvura Mesa. You see, it would go like this. A shayel we know is responsible if it dies. We learned that. We know he's responsible if it's injured. And we just figured out that he's responsible if it's taken captive. How do we know he's also responsible if it got stolen? He says, well, let's take a look at this. We'll learn from Shvura Mesa. If it's injured or died, he's responsible. For sure, he's responsible for if it got stolen. It says, Shvura Mesa, can't say that. Maybe when it's injured and died, the reason why he's responsible is because there's nothing the owner can do to fix it. If it's dead, it's dead. If it's injured, what do you want the owner to do? But if it got stolen or lost, you can say, look, I'm really sorry it got stolen or lost. Maybe you can go find it. And you'll exempt the watchman. You can tell the owner, I know, I wasn't so good, but you know what, if you go look for it, you'll probably find it. Maybe you can throw the responsibility back on the owner. You can't do that by Shvura Mesa. What are you going to do? Daven for it to come back alive? Right? You can't, that's not something to expect. But maybe you can go look for it and you'll find it. You know, you shout its name, whatever. Betsy.
sometimes the medical bills could be more.
Right. No, we're not talking about when it's Shvura Mesa, we're giving up on it. But when it's stolen or lost, we're not giving up on it. Right? So Ella, so maybe so we don't have a source that Gneva Aveda should be, that stolen or lost should be chayav by the shayel. Ella Kiyad Tani rather was taught in the Brisa. The Nishbari Mace, if it was injured or died, only Ella Shvura Mace, I only know injured and died, Gneva Aveda Minayin. How do we know if it's stolen or lost? You also chayav Amrit Kalvachaimer, Yabba Kalvachaimer. Mashem Sacher Shabbat Mishvura Mesa. Shamer Sacher is exempt if it's injured or died, but it's chayav Gneva Aveda. But it's responsible if it's stolen or lost. Shel shechai b'shvur mesim din chai b'gneva aveda. A borrower that's chayav if it's injured or died. For sure should be chayav if it's stolen or lost. If a shemer sachar, which is usually pater, is chayav by stolen or lost. So a shoyel, which is usually chayav, for sure should be chayav. But zeu kal v'chaymer shein olav tshuva. This is such a good kal v'chaymer that there's no retort to this kal v'chaymer. There's nothing you can say to this kal v'chaymer. Gemara says, "Oh, there's nothing you could say. What is the thing that you wanted to say that you can't say?" Yeah, that's how the Gemara thinks. So when you say there's nothing you could say, "What is it that you wanted to say that you're telling me I can't say?" Yeah, in the Besdin, when someone would come in, and we would ask them always, "Are you dating someone?" So they would say, "Not really." So we would say, "Tell us the person that you're not really dating. Tell us who's that person." It's like, tell me what's question you're not asking that you're saying you can't ask. It says, "Mayin alav tshuva." What's the question that you can't ask? The question would go like this: Ikla mifrach, you can ask. If a shemer sachar who's usually chayav on gneva aveda, if it gets stolen or lost, the paid watchman is responsible if it's stolen or lost. But if it's an armed robber, and if he claims it's an armed robber, he'd be exempt. So if he claims it's an armed robber and then he gets caught that it really wasn't, he would have to pay double. They say, you see, a paid watchman is stricter than a borrower, because a borrower would never have to pay double. And here we found the scenario where a borrower has to pay double. The Gemara says the reason why that's not a question is afiloachi, kind of the shayla adifa. Paying the principal, like we said on the page before, is more severe than paying double if he gets caught. So okay, another possible answer to this is that an armed robber doesn't pay double anyway. So when you claim that it's because he's a robber, not a thief, only the thief pays double. We had a machlekes before in Baba Kama if a armed robber is considered a thief or a robber. A robber is just someone that comes and pulls it out of your hand and runs away. He's not afraid of you. He's not afraid of Hashem. He's fine. So he doesn't pay double. A thief is afraid of you, but he's not afraid of Hashem. He doesn't want to get caught. Now the armed robber comes with a gun. So in a way, he is afraid of you. That's why he brought along a gun. So maybe he's like a thief because he's afraid of you. A little bit different, but maybe so that's a machlekes. So if he is like a thief, then he would pay double. If he's like a robber, then he only pays once. So we're saying over here, he only pays once anyway. He's a gazlan, he's a robber. So the shemer sachar, the paid watchman, is not stricter in any case, in any way. He's never stricter than a borrower.
He's a gun, like he's not afraid of Hashem.
He's not afraid of Hashem. The question is that no one that's doing Averis are afraid of Hashem. The question is if they're afraid of people and not afraid of Hashem. If they're afraid of people and not afraid of Hashem, see that which is much worse. People you're afraid of and Hashem not.
No, but
So then he has to pay double.
the thief covers
Covers his face, so he's afraid of people and not afraid of Hashem. The robber is not afraid of people. Everyone's equal. Hashem and people are the same. Not afraid of anyone. And the armed robber, in a way, is afraid of people because he's bringing a gun, but he's not afraid of Hashem. Or in a way, he's not afraid of people because everyone sees him. He's not afraid of him. So this is in the middle. One opinion is like a thief. One opinion is he's not a thief. The thief covers his face. He does not cover his. In a way, he's not afraid of him. Okay.
But doesn't
I'm sorry.
but the whole reason why that he wouldn't be liable when it's an armed robber is because it's not his fault, right? What does that have to do with being afraid of Hashem? If the robber is afraid of Hashem or not?
So there's like a chain of logic here. Works like this. The robber himself is a machlekes if he pays double or not. Now we're talking about the shemer sachar. He's claiming that it was an armed robber, so therefore he should be exempt. Turns out that it wasn't an armed robber. It was really he himself. Now, what we do to the person, to the shemer that claims that it was a robber or a thief, a theft or something like that, he gets the halacha of that. It's as if he was the one that did it. So, yeah. So if it was a theft, then he would have to pay double. But let's say a tayin tanas list in mezuyin. So he claimed that it was. So now, if the armed robber pays double, then he now pays double. If the armed robber doesn't pay double, then he doesn't pay double. So what we're doing is we're saying, well, the shemer sachar doesn't have any stringency over the borrower because he himself never even pays double. Yeah, this is a second step over here that it's not the armed robber that we're talking about. It's talking about the borrower, not the borrower. The shemer sachar that's claiming that it was an armed robber, and then we catch him.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay. The Gemara now says we have to leave it over here. We didn't get into the discussion about Bailam. 1 second. Is that clock? No, I have time. I'm gonna go now. That clock is wrong. I keep getting thrown off by the clock over here. That's That's not right. That's never correct. Not even twice a day. Ashkechan l'chiyav. We've learned that there's an obligation of gneva v'aveda by the shoyel. The borrower has to pay if it's stolen or lost. But liftor minalan, how do we know he's exempt if it's sheila b'bailam? He borrowed it together with the owner. Now, he borrowed it together with the owner. If it's injured or dies, he's exempt. Sheila b'bailam, borrowing with the owner, you're exempt on that. That was the Mishnah. But let's say it was stolen or lost, and he borrowed it with the owner. Is he going to be exempt on that? Maybe it's only the unpreventable circumstance that exempts him with the owners there. But something that the Shemer Sacher would be chayav on, maybe he's not exempt. Maybe it's a special din by a shayel. That the shayel, okay. So it says, V'chitem enelef mishvura mesa. Let's learn from shvura mesa. Ma'ala shvura mesa shkeinainis. You can't do that. Shvura mesa, you can't learn from there. That's an accident. That's unpreventable circumstance. That's why you're exempt. Ela gamar mishemer sacher. So we'll learn from a shemer sacher. How do we know that a shemer sacher is exempt if the owner is there? It says Gemiri chiyuv the shemer sacher, chiyuv the shayel. We're going to learn the obligations from the shemer sacher, from the obligations of the shayel. Malahalam b'bailam pater, afkan b'bailam pater. We'll learn just like by the shayel, if the owner's there, he's going to be exempt. Also by the shemer sacher, he's going to be exempt if the owner's with you. Okay. Now, once we know that the shemer sacher is exempt, what's he exempt from? Gneva aveda. We know that he's exempt from gneva aveda. Let's go back to shayel. If the borrower if it's stolen from the borrower, he'll also be exempt if the owner's there. It says, "B'may gamar." How did you get that the shemer sacher is exempt if the owner's with him, the paid watchman? It says, "Iba mamatzino." If it's just a precedent, mamatzino, just as we find here. So to it's how can you compare? Over there by the shayel, it's an accident. Over here, it's a type of negligence. It's stolen or lost. Elamarkra, rather we learn it from the verse. It says Vichi Yishal, and he will borrow, and when he will borrow. Vav Maisaf Alinian Rishon Vilam and Eliam Mitach. That Vav, consecutive Vav, tells me, and it's coming to tell me that we learn the preceding case, the paragraph before, we learn that from the paragraph later. Just like the paragraph later, which is the lower down on the column. That's why Elyon means the higher one on the column. It's the one that the one that said before, which is the shemer sacher. We learn it from the shayel. Vakati shayel mishemer sacher legamar. Okay, but you only learned it one way. You only learned that if the unpaid watchman is exempt, but you didn't learn that the shayel is going to be exempt by when it's stolen or lost. I only know that unpaid watchman is exempt if the owner's there when it's stolen or lost. It says Dikla Mifrach. I can ask a question. The fact that the unpaid watchman is exempt if the owner's with him when it's stolen or lost, that doesn't tell me that the borrower is exempt when it's stolen or lost if the owner's with him, because the borrower is chayav on so many other things. It's more strict. It says, and rather, we have to look at it like this. How did we find out in the first place that a borrower is responsible for stolen or lost? The Gamar Mishemer Sacher, we learned it from a Shemer Sacher. Well, guess what? If you learned it from Shemer Sacher and you had a Kal V'Chaimer, so the way Kal V'Chaimer works, this a fortiori is that if a weak person can lift 10 pounds, for sure, a strong person can lift 10 pounds. You can only learn it that a strong person can lift 10 pounds. You can't say for sure a strong person can lift 20 pounds. That you don't know. Well, that's in the Gemara calls that daya. It's enough. It's enough to say what you started with. You can't go further. So if a shemer sacher, which is chayav and geneva aveda, we're going to learn from there that for sure a shoyel is chayav and geneva aveda. But 1 second, the shemer sacher is only chayav if the owner's not with him. So therefore, by the shoyel, he's only going to be chayav if the owner's not with him. My gneva aveda the shemer sacher b'bailam pater. Gneva aveda shel nami b'bailam pater. By the borrower also, he's going to be exempt if he's not with him. If the owner's with him, he's going to be exempt. Hanicha, this works out. Laman dis leidaya. If we say that rule about kal v'chomer about the fortiori, that you can't go any higher than where you started from. Laman the less leidaya. But according to Reb Tarfon and Baba Kama, Reb Tarfon held that you can make a kal v'chomer and you can go even further than where you started from, because he made a kal v'chomer that said that in the Rishus HaNizek, a short tam should have to pay Nezek Shalim. That was he made a kal v'chomer and he went even further than where we started from. So over here also, maybe we should say that the shayel is responsible and is going to have to pay even if the owner is with him. What he's going to do is he's going to go like this. It says in the pasuk v'chi yishal, and if when he will borrow. We'll say that the vav teaches me to the shemer sachar that if the owner is there, he's exempt, and then it goes back to teach me to the shayel that when the owner's exempt when the owner's there and it's stolen or lost, that he's going to be exempt by the shayel as well. That vav goes both ways. It's and is going backwards to teach me a halacha by the shemer sachar, then it's going forwards to teach me a halacha from the shemer sachar back to the shayel, which basically tells me that gneva va'aveda, the bailam is pater. Stolen or lost, but the owner was with him, is exempt, whether it's a shemer sachar, a non-paid watchman, or a borrower. That's what we're holding right now. Next, we're going to talk about pshi of the bailam. Okay, let's leave it here.